Morning, Richard Fulmer here. Welcome to another edition of Richard's Rock Rambles. So today we're going to have a final look at bands that should have been bigger, and we're going to have a look at the British blues rock band Free. Only made 6 albums, 1 live album, but in that short time they definitely made a mark. Blessed with an amazing vocalist in Paul Rogers and the late great Paul Kossoff on guitar. So they formed in London in 1968. The original lineup was Paul Rogers, lead vocals, keyboards and guitar, Paul Kossoff on guitar, Andy Fraser on bass guitar, and Simon Kirk on drums. There were some later members, John Rabbit Bundrick on keyboards, piano, he was there between 72 and 73. Tetsu Yamauchi, bass guitar from 1972 to 73 as well. 6 studio albums in all and 1 live album. Very short discography, but they made quite an impact. So let's just go through some of the albums. I have all 6 studio and I have a live album. The first one is called Tons of Sobs. That's the album cover there. That's the back. Great CD. Over the Green Hills Part 1, Worry, which is a great blues track. Walk in My Shadow, excellent. Wild Indian Woman, Going Down Slow, I'm a Mover, which is a great up-tempo blues rocker on here. These Universal remasters, by the way, have about 7 or 8 bonus tracks on here, which is quite cool. Guy Stevens Blues, Moonshine, Sweet Tooth, really good production on these, I must say. I was quite impressed. And these remasters came out in 2001. The album was released originally in 1969. And they were quite prolific in the early days, releasing like 1 or 2 a year. Let's see if there's anything I can show you. Guys in the studio and what have you. Lots of good information as well about what was happening at the time. So that's that one. These Tons of Sobs. Then we come to the album called Free, simply entitled Free. There's the back. Another great album, probably one of my favorites. I'll Be Creeping, Songs of Yesterday, Lying in the Sunshine, Trouble on Double Time, Mouthful of Grass. Also a whole bunch of bonus tracks on here, at least another 7 or 8 bonus tracks on here. And this was, I think, either also 69 or 70. I think it was 1970. So that's the self-titled. Then we get to probably the biggest seller that most people know, Fire and Water. This obviously featured a big hit, All Right Now, which became a massive hit for them. They really got them recognized, or they got a little recognition, should I say, from that track. It's been used in adverts and been used by a whole bunch of other bands. Mr. Big is on here, which is another big track, a bruising up-tempo rocker. And there's about 6 different versions, or 6 bonus tracks here, 3 different versions of All Right Now, and a couple of other tracks. Let's see if there's anything else in here that I can show you quickly. There's the guys there in their early 70s look. So that's Fire and Water. If you haven't discovered Free yet, I would suggest you try Fire and Water as a starting point and then go on from there. Great album. Then we got the album Highway, which features The Stealer, which is a great track, Be My Friend, Ride on a Pony. Not as great as some of the previous ones, but still a good groove to this album. Great guitar work. There's a shot of the guys there. So that's Highway. And then we move on to Free at Last, where unfortunately the drugs were starting to get a hold of Mr. Kossoff, and he wasn't doing too well here. And you can hear it in this album. They've lost a bit of their early fire. Catch a Train, Soldier Boy, Magic Ship, Little Bit of Love, Guardian of the Universe. There's a shot of the guys there, Mr. Kossoff there, looking a bit ragged. He would go on to leave the band. He's still featured on their next album called Heartbreaker, but I don't think he toured very much. He really wasn't doing well. And this is the album that featured Tetsu Yamauchi and Rabbit Bundrick on piano and organ. And and Tetsu was on bass guitar and percussion. Wishing Well was the big hit of this album, also been covered by a bunch of people. Traveling in Style, Heartbreaker, Muddy Water. Not a bad album. It's the back cover there. So that's Heartbreaker. Then there's the live one, Free Live. And this was from 1970. There was a couple of different venues. Sunderland, Laverna and Fillmore North, January 1970. And Fairfields Hall, Croydon in 1970. They got most of the hits on here. All Right Now, I'm a Mover, Mr. Big, The Hunter. Great live album. Production's pretty good for live albums. You know, sometimes live albums, the production's not that great. This one is really good. Excuse me. So that's the live album. A couple of years ago, they also released Live at the BBC, which has got some interesting stuff on here. Also a double disc. Fire and Water, Be My Friend, Take 1, Take 2, Ride on a Pony. There's about 4 different takes of that. That's in session. That's about 20 tracks. And then there's a second disc with 11 tracks in concert at the BBC. One worth checking out. If you can find this, it's really great. And there's some nice recordings on here. Some of them are quite raw, but it's kind of nice sometimes to get that in-your-face rawness from the early blues stuff. Then there was a really nice DVD called Free Forever. I'll just put this all together for you. That's what it looks like there. And this has got the whole of the Isle of Wight from 1970. They appeared at that massive festival, and they did pretty well there. There's stuff from the Beat Club in Germany, Granada TV, and some original videos. This is one worth checking out. Also comes with a nice booklet with a whole bunch of info. Looks like that. It opens up. Really cool. You can find that. It's worth checking out. So that was it for free. Not many albums, one live album, and they were done. Amazing band though. One of my favorite blues rock bands from the UK, or from anywhere really. Paul Rodgers went on to form Bad Company along with Simon Kirke, and they went on to mega stardom. Signed up with Swan Song label, Led Zeppelin's label, with Peter Grant as the producer. They had Boz Burrell came into the band from King Crimson and Mick Rolfs from Mott the Hoople. Paul Kossoff formed a band called Backstreet Crawler, made one album I think, and Andy Fraser formed a band called Sharks. Paul Kossoff unfortunately died on the 19th of March 1976 on a flight from LA to New York. He died from a pulmonary embolism. Very young. Really sad. I mean, the guy had so much talent, he could have gone on to massive things. Andy Fraser died more recently in 2015 from a heart attack. He also earlier suffered from AIDS. So there we have it, folks. Free, a band worth checking out. Great guitar work from Paul Kossoff, the late great. Amazing vocals from Paul Rodgers, who's still going strong today. Simon Kirke and Andy Fraser, rock solid, with a really upfront bass sound, which is what I dig from those early 70s albums. So that's it for bands who should have been bigger, I think, for the moment. Next week I'm going to go on to some concert DVDs. Seeing as there's nothing out there at the moment to go and see, I thought I'd highlight some concert DVDs that are worth checking out. So hopefully I'll see you guys next week. Please remember to put any comments down below if you have anything you like, anything you don't like, any suggestions, whatever. And please like and subscribe. And I'll catch you all again next week. Take care. Cheers.